Jack would like to talk with you, Commander.
I got thoughts like little bugs. You know I have a history with Cerberus. You know how far back it goes?
I'll listen to anything you have
Your
to
pal,
say.
the elusive man? Never seen him. They did experiments, drugged me. The doctors, the other kids. Every one of them hated me. They let me suffer.
What did they hope to gain
It
by
was
torture?
something about pain breaking down mental barriers and how it might clear the way for a more biotic power. I'm sure there was a payoff due at some point, but I wasn't gonna see it. I was wired up in a cell.
They tortured you just to see if they could make a strong
Wasn't in a
bionic.
position to ask, Shepard. All I know is a little girl crying in a cell, begging for the pain
You're
to stop.
absolutely certain.
I was a
Cerberus-
kid, but I wasn't dumb. I know how to... They thought they were so clever. Turns out, mess with someone's head enough and you can turn a scared kid.
I'm gonna talk to the elusive man.
He'll just deny everything. I found the coordinates in your files. I want to go to the Telton facility. I want to go to the center of the place, my cell. I want to deploy a big fucking bomb, and I want to watch from orbit when it goes.
I'll set a course for Pragia.
I owe you, Shepard.
feet by the count of 10, and Booker to steal one of your quotes.
Little mind games, but
Whoa!
didn't work out. Biggest matches, the biggest.
Yo, what's up, guys? It's your boy C-Jax back with another video, and today we're going to be discussing the news, the alleged situation that I kind of touched on in my Raw review, where fans now, absolute bot fans, who are the same fans paying $10,000 to show up to these trash shows, talking about some Roman Reigns, and after Liv Morgan uses heel tactics and cheating to win a world championship at Mania, the crowd on Raw a couple nights afterwards is chanting, "You deserve it." These guys are bots. And even on Raw, we saw that when CM Punk referenced Jey Uso in his promo, bro, with Cornelius Rodington, I respect you. You know what I'm saying? After CM Punk mentioned Jey Uso in his promo, they boo him, right? But then later on in the night when Jey Uso comes out and Roman talks to him, they're yeeting. These fans do not know what's good for them. They have no idea what's going on. And quick side note, I find it funny that the punt kick, you know what I'm saying, has been alluded to obviously end careers and put people out on the shelf for a very long time. That's how the move used to work when I was a kid, you know what I'm saying, watching wrestling. And then Cody takes a punt kick a few days ago at Mania and is out on Raw declaring that he can give CM Punk a WWE Championship match whenever he wants one, bro. So Cody no-sells the punt kick, just like he no-sold Kevin Owens' pile driver. This is just ridiculous at this point and nonsense, but whatever. But as per usual, a couple of, interesting headlines come out, you know what I'm saying, about how TKO has full creative control over WWE, allegedly, right? And fans are jumping on it and already are making excuses for triple fraud like they always do. They're saying things like Triple H's hamstrung and he has no option. They're saying things like it's TKO's fault why the show sucked. They're saying things like, why in the world did TKO ruin wrestling, man? Why do they ruin wrestling, man? Ladies and gentlemen, I have to show you some evidence here in this video and actually clarify some things for you. Now, I mentioned this in my Raw review. The TKO, you know what I'm saying, Mark Shapiro, whoever the dude was who was in the interview, the context of what he was being asked by the fans was about celebrities showing up, you know what I'm saying, in WWE. And it was about how the main event scene has celebrities in it, you know what I'm saying, and some of the storylines failed, specifically referencing the Pat McAfee stuff with Randall Orton and Cody Rhodes. And to that, Mark Shapiro responded with, "We have full control." But then the next quotes he talks about inside of the interview is basically referencing people like Pat McAfee, Mark Wahlberg, and Logan Paul, and referencing that it's a part of a growth strategy that they're trying to branch out the business and put more eyeballs on it. In the same way I Show Speed put more eyeballs, I'm sure, on WrestleMania to an extent with him showing up in that what's called a 3v3 tag match. So that's the context of the interview. They're not saying we have full creative control and we book every single show and we book every single PLE. They're just saying that they have full creative control in the context of celebrities, and they obviously, you know what I'm saying, in certain scenarios will say yes or no to certain things, but it always is really dealing with celebrity situations. Like with The Rock showing up last year at Elimination Chamber with John Cena. You guys saw on WWE Unreal and The Rock's interview with Pat McAfee last year. He literally said, bro, WWE was struggling to sell tickets in Mania season last year. Why were they struggling to sell tickets, guys? Triple Fraud is confirmed to be the one who's booking the week-to-week shows in the lower and mid-card. Remember that. Now, why were they struggling to sell tickets last Mania season, guys? Who is that on? It's on Triple Fraud. So because Triple Fraud is not doing his job as a booker, they called an audible and added The Rock in there to sell thousands of extra tickets and generate extra millions of dollars for this company. Just like in Mania 40 season, The Rock was involved because The Rock was originally going to fight Roman Reigns. The fans didn't want that. So what did The Rock, you know what I'm saying, and his writer Brian Gewirtz and what's it called in TKO, what did they pivot to? The Rock becoming heel and becoming the final boss, and it made the greatest WrestleMania storyline probably in the last 10 to 15 years. You understand what I'm saying with The Rock and Roman and Cody and Rollins? So again, when TKO does something good, Mania 40 somehow Triple H got the credit. It was Triple H's new era. And he came out in the ring and declared that we're going to have a brand new era and Triple Fraud. Paul Levesque is the new guy at the head of it. He gets credit for a main storyline that he had basically nothing to do with. But somehow when the shows are bad now all of a sudden it's TKO's fault. You see the double standard? It doesn't make any sense because of attention to detail. Look at the context of what's being said inside of these interviews and what these headlines are saying. They're trying to paint a picture that Triple H is blameless for all of this. But you know how we have proof that Triple H is not blameless for all of this? The show that he's literally on the poster of titled WWE Unreal. We have 2 seasons of this show, and it depicts in each season multiple different episodes and multiple scenarios where Triple H has come in and audible to do something different and then books it horribly. Example 1A, Jey Uso winning the Royal Rumble. On the
I don't
creative
know.
board, the
Doesn't
ideas were
matter
for
now.
Cena or CM Punk to win the Royal Rumble.
actually
Did
were
Cena or
wanted
CM
to
Punk win
They
last year's
actually
Royal
were
Rumble?
wanted to.
No.
wanted to
Triple
be
H came in and said, hey, I think we should strap the
get
rocket on you, Jay. And they show it they literally show it in the show. He goes up to Jey Uso and says,
You know, Jay, you're starting to get pretty over. I think I'm gonna go and strap the rocket on ya.
and they audible from Punk or Cena winning the Rumble, guys, to Jey Uso winning the Rumble.
This
and then he
place is
taps out
supposed to
Gunther
be
in 5
empty.
seconds and
Who
has
the fuck
one
shot
of the
that
worst
Baron?
world title reigns
It's a
in
fresh
recent
kill.
memory. Then after this, I have another example for you. Last year, The Rock was brought in, obviously, to sell tickets. This is confirmed. We saw it on Pat McAfee's show. We heard it from, TKO themselves and from The Rock himself. The Rock gets involved, okay? And we have a situation where The Rock's idea, right, was for him to come back, and then Cody was intending to turn heel and then face Cena at WrestleMania 41 was going to get the WWE Championship as a good guy rather than being a heel. But Triple Fraud, literally in the Unreal Show, proposes the idea for John Cena to be the one to turn heel. John Cena then turns heel. The Rock was only supposed to be there for only a couple shows. He was on a SmackDown or two, and then he was on the Elimination Chamber. That was all he was there for anyways, just to drive tickets up for a little bit and build some intrigue. He did his job. The Cena heel turn was massive or whatever. The Cena segment with The Rock and him and Cody, massive. Triple H wanted Cena to turn heel, and then what happened to Cena's heel turn, guys? Who booked Cena's heel turn? Triple Fraud booked the heel turn, and it sucked. Then you fast forward to this year. Cody and Randy, before Pat McAfee was involved, was boring. They had one of the worst brawl segments of all time, very boring. Randy Orton turned quote-unquote heel and was still getting cheered because
Why
Cody
do you
was
need
booked
more?
so poorly that
This
the
was a
fans are
small
booing him.
facility.
Because even
A
without the
lot of
booking,
children
Cody
died
Rhodes was
here.
just boring. And he's
Even
done
then, they were
absolutely
part of the experiment.
nothing. You understand what I'm
Okay.
saying? With
I
that
had the worst
championship
of it,
reign,
and I
or
made
with
it
any
out
of his
alive.
championship reigns. And so they're starting to get tired and bored of Cody Rhodes, just like we all are at this point. So once again, when the booking sucks and characters are booked poorly, Drew McIntyre is randomly losing his championship a couple weeks before WrestleMania. When that bad booking takes place, SmackDown is at the worst state it's arguably ever been, you know what I'm saying, over the last like half a year, year and a half,
Strange
whatever.
to
You
be
know what I'm
back
saying?
here.
After
I
that
feel
takes
like
place, then TKO
I'm
intervenes
pissed
and
off.
adds Patrick McAfee
I'm
into the
maybe just
feud.
bitch.
And nobody liked
But
Pat
then
McAfee
I'm a
being
little
involved in
girl
this
again.
feud. But again, TKO would not
complicated.
intervene
Let's
if
just
the
go plan that.
storylines were
Trouble
actually
incoming.
great. If you're selling out these arenas, if you're telling great stories, if you have great feuds, if the SmackDown's getting high viewership, if the Raw shows are getting high viewership, they don't have to intervene and do these things. Hence why Raw on Netflix is doing better than SmackDown, even though both shows are garbage in my opinion. At least Raw has Roman Reigns and CM Punk, you know what I'm saying, on the bridge of WrestleMania 40. And therefore, TKO didn't intervene with Roman and Punk. If TKO's really intervening with everything, guys, why didn't they just throw Jelly Roll into CM Punk and Roman Reigns? Why not? Because they know that Roman and Punk can sell stuff on their
They
own.
have
But
children
SmackDown
here?
is so awful, and the main event scene is so terrible in this company that outside of 3 or 4 people, as Triple H said himself, we have no backup Cody, we have no backup Randy, no backup Roman, and no backup Punk. TKO intervenes and adds Pat McAfee into some random feud and then has to tie CM Punk into the Cody Rhodes, you know what I'm saying, and Pat McAfee situation. Do you see
you
what
in
I'm
here?
saying? Triple fraud, guys.
Sounds on the
After
other side.
booking horrible
I can see
shows,
all the other kids
horrible
out here.
PLEs,
I
that's
screamed
when
at them
TKO
for
has to step
hours,
in and add
and
some
they
stuff,
always ignored
only in the
me.
main event scene too. It's not like TKO is intervening in the mid-card feuds, the lower card feuds, the upper card feuds. It's just a specific main event match here and there that they'll add a celebrity into to try and build some, you know what I'm saying, some hype around the event and put some extra
lowered
eyeballs
core
in and
temperatures
possibly
of
make some
surviving
extra money.
subjects.
That's all that it is,
But
guys.
no
That's all it
biotically
is. We
beneficial
literally see in
reactions
Unreal
occurred.
when Triple Fraud is
As
in
a
these
side
creative
effect,
rooms, right, with
all
Road Dogg, you know what I'm
subjects
saying?
died.
Ain't nothing but
So
a
we'll not
hound
try
dog.
that
When
on
Triple H is
Zero.
in these creative rooms with Road Dogg,
hope
right,
our
with
supply
Bruce
of
Pritchard, all these
biotic
other
potential
writers, you know what I'm saying,
subjects
there's
holds
plenty
up.
of them in the room, and they're coming
We
up with
are
these
going through
absolutely
them fast.
horrible ideas for these
This is
shows,
bullshit.
and Triple H
They
is
weren't
coming in and just
experimenting
calling
on the other
audibles and
children
going
for
with
my
whatever he
safety.
wants. You understand what I'm saying? These guys, none of these people are creative. They're not making good
can't help what
shows.
they did
And
to
in
others.
these
You don't
writers'
get it,
rooms that you
Shepard.
see on
I survived
WWE
this
Unreal,
place because
you
I was
don't see
tougher
The
than
Rock
the
in these
rest.
writers' rooms. You
That's
don't
who
see
I
Mark
am.
Shapiro in these writer
move
rooms.
on.
You don't see
Harder.
Ari Emanuel in these writer rooms, do you? You see Triple Fraud in his creative team because he's the chief content officer. He oversees the content. And Nicholas Khan said himself, you know what I'm saying, one of the higher ups of TKO said that Triple H is in lockstep with TKO. So they're in unison with every single decision, guys. Triple H is not being forced to do stuff. The own boss is saying that he's in lockstep with the company TKO. So don't give me the excuse of, oh, well, Triple H is being forced to do this. He's being forced to... No, he's not. Look at the evidence and the reality, and you will clearly see that that's not accurate. And another example, too, of Triple H butting his head into storylines himself, right, is when Drew McIntyre ended up winning the WWE Championship, which came as a result of Cody Rhodes and Drew McIntyre. I literally made a video about this multiple times. This is multiple, people reporting this, okay? Drew McIntyre and Cody Rhodes pushed for Drew to win the belt back at WrestlePalooza. But then heading into the, the new year of 2026, we had another match with Cody and Drew in the 3 stages of Hell match. And then once that took place, Cody Rhodes, ladies and gentlemen, lost to Drew McIntyre. Fast forward a few weeks before WrestleMania, Cody had already lost the Chamber and lost the Rumble, and Triple Fraud has him take the title back from Drew McIntyre. Are you kidding me at this point? Last year as well, guys, another example of this. Somehow, Rhea Ripley loses the world title a month or two before Mania, and then after complaining for a few weeks, gets shoved back into a world championship match that she had nothing to do with and no storyline to be involved in, and it made absolutely zero sense, guys. And these are all the instances where Triple Fraud is pushing things into the main event scene and changing things himself that either make no sense and end absolutely awfully. Even Gunther, Goon Jobber, retires John Cena. He retires AJ Styles. He retires Goldberg. Which obviously Triple Fraud wanted Gunther to have all those moments. It's pretty evident, okay? And Gunther gets all those moments. Triple H forces him to retire these people. And where has Gunther gone? Up until 2 weeks before Mania 42 this year, this dude had 0 matches confirmed because he had no storylines. So again, all these are examples of Triple H making random, awful, and nonsensical decisions in just the main event scene alone as examples. We're not even talking about in the mid-card and lower card scenes where you're getting repetitive, nonsensical matches that nobody cares about and that never have any story. When's the last time that the US title in either division or the IC title in either division has had an actual great and intriguing feud or storyline, guys? Where is it? Where is it, man? The guy responsible for booking these cards is Triple Fraud. And then you also have the tag team divisions on both sides, on both divisions, on both shows are garbage. So whose fault is that? You see what I'm saying? You can see at every single level, this is not a TKO problem in these certain levels that I'm talking about. These are the shows we're watching. We're not showing up to every single show paying thousands of dollars. You understand what I'm saying? Not everybody's paying the money to watch these Netflix and, you know, like ESPN subscriptions to watch this trash. So again, we have to judge up for the content that we're getting, and these are a multitude of examples in which Triple Fraud is ruining and hurting this company severely over the last year and a half, where the booking in these different, you know what I'm saying, parts of the company that I'm talking about have been terrible. It's a common denominator. Last year's Mania season sucked, therefore they have to intervene with The Rock. This year's Mania season is absolute garbage, therefore we have to intervene by adding Pat McAfee in their opinion. And if next year's Mania season sucks, they're probably going to add The Rock in to get rock and roll. The build to SummerSlam last year was complete garbage. So lo and behold, at the end of the show, you finally got a great match with John Cena and Cody Rhodes, and then Brock Lesnar comes back out of nowhere. He probably wasn't even ever planning to come back. That's why he just retired at 80. He probably didn't even want to do this whole 8 months thing and all these shows realistically, but he probably wanted to have one more match. But not all this other nonsense like the War Games garbage and other stuff he's doing. And squashing John Cena at WrestlePalooza, like all of that stuff taking place. TKO, guys, only adds in celebrities or random occurrences, you know what I'm saying, like a big name added back into the fray when Triple Fraud is not doing his job. And that is the reality of the situation. You can't just read headlines and start to exempt Triple H from blame. Vince McMahon gets blamed. Tony Khan gets blamed. When they book bad shows, they get blamed. So why is it that when Triple H books horrible shows week to week, it's TKO's fault? That makes no sense. You think these billionaires like The Rock and Mark Shapiro and TKO, you think they're sitting in these creative rooms with Triple Fraud coming up with this stuff? Are you kidding me? And something else I find very, very interesting as well is that when people considered Pat McAfee breaking the fourth wall, you know what I'm saying, during his segments with Cody Rhodes, like the promos on the mic, one of the lines he says is, Cody Rhodes, you know what I'm saying, are you gonna go kiss Triple H's butt, you know what I'm saying, and, you know, suck up to Triple H in order to get, you know what I'm saying, a long championship run and things of that nature? And he's kind of breaking the fourth wall by calling out Triple H and creative and basically saying that they play a huge role, you know what I'm saying, in certain people's reigns and situations, like Cody Rhodes. Cody Rhodes and Triple H are always glazing one another. We just saw them do a libation podcast together and drink their juice, you know what I'm saying, drink their libations while they glaze one another in their journeys to get to this point. So things like that are lines that are said by these wrestlers are kind of breaking the fourth wall, right? And you have a situation where Jade Cargill, you know what I'm saying, after Rhea won the Elimination Chamber and Jade and Rhea had that little Twitter beef situation. I mean, I guess Rhea's always having Twitter beef because she's always pissed off about something that somebody's saying, whether it's a fan or a wrestler, whatever. But either way, Rhea Ripley and her, you know what I'm saying, Jade Cargill brings up an idea. She basically says that, you know, she sees Rhea Ripley always in creative, spending time together. You guys remember when Jade said that a month or two ago, right? And then lo and behold, that actually pissed off Rhea Ripley. You can tell it actually pissed her off. Why would that be pissing her off if it wasn't actually legitimate heat and a legitimate thing that Jade Cargill exposed? And when you see how much time Triple H and Rhea are spending together, the way he hugged him, month or two that, you know, she sees Rhea Ripley always in creative spending time together. You guys remember when Jade said that a month or two ago, right? And then lo and behold, that actually pissed off Rhea Ripley. You could tell it actually pissed her off. Why would that be pissing her off if it wasn't actually legitimate heat and a legitimate thing that Jade Cargill exposed? And when you see how much time Triple H and Rhea are spending together,
The way he hugs up on her and goes in and sniffs that hair. Game up.
that, you know, she either way,
Looks like you're not the only one pulled back here,
I
Jack.
tried to forget that. I hired these mercs and came back almost. I'm gonna find out what they knew. How to unlock true. It will be beautiful.
I wanted a hole in the ground. He's trying to justify what happened by using it?
You do the same thing to new kids?
Some were bought from poor families on Earth, or they did such horrible things to us.
There's no reason good enough. Are you nuts? You lived it. That's easy.
Just leave me here. This is where I belong.
Fuck that.
He deserves it.
I decide how to deal with my past, not you.
I gave you an order.
Killing him isn't gonna fix my head. Get out of here. Go! He's not worth chasing. None of it is.
You did the right thing, Jack.
Maybe. This room was my whole childhood. Give me a minute to look around.
Go ahead.
Nothing's changed, but it's all different. I used this table for everything. It was like my best friend. I was pathetic. Sometimes I dream that I'm back in this bed being tortured. I used to tie the sheets around my wrists and try to rip. I want to stop coming back here. I thought that room out there was the rest of the world. Never did any good. See the scarring on the wall here? That's where I killed my... Instead, okay, no more wallowing. Let's blow this place to hell.
disagreement? Can you head it off before they tear out a bulkhead?
I'll deal with it.
Take pictures.
Touch me and I will smear the walls with you, bitch!
Enough! Stand down, both of you.
The cheerleader won't admit what Cerberus did to me was wrong.
It wasn't Cerberus. Not really. But clearly you were a mistake.
Screw you! You've got no idea what they put me through. Maybe it's time I showed you.
When you agreed to work for me, you agreed to be part of a Cerberus mission.
You're both assholes. You want me to fight for you? Fine. You want anything more? Go fuck yourself.
Thank you. Sorry about that. I hope she doesn't cause... Commander, what can I do for you?
You have a minute, Miranda?
Of course. I'd been meaning to speak with you, in fact. I wanted to apologize. I didn't fully believe you'd be up to the task, and it seems I was wrong. Frankly, based on what I've seen, I wish Cerberus had recruited you earlier.
I wish your people had made the offer.
I looked at your track record as you hunted Saren. I saw the choice, and we'd be lucky to have you. Too many join us out of simple xenophobia. We need more people here for the right reasons.
With your intelligence, you could have landed any job you wanted.
Because I still envy the time Morden spent with the Special Tasks Group, working with people as smart as he was. Cerberus never tells me that something is impossible. They give me my resources and say do it. And they've given you even more. A new life, a new ship, the elusive man's personal attention.
The best thing he did was to put you on my squad.
You'd have done fine without me. I may not have believed it before, but I don't have what you do. That fire that makes someone willing to follow you into hell itself. My father got me the best genes money could buy. Guess it wasn't enough.
You always bring up your genetic tailoring. It really bothers you, doesn't it?
This is what I am, Shepard. I can't hide it. The intelligence, the look, every one of your accomplishments is due to your skill. The only things I can take credit for are my mistakes.
I can't admire your body or your mind. You give your father too much credit.
Oh, thank you. Perhaps I wouldn't mind if you admired my body.
You wouldn't, huh?
I think I could live with it.
It's only fair. You've had 2 years to look at me. And I was wearing less than you are.
Shepard, wait. I need to think about this.
Scared, Ms. Lawson?
Cautious, Commander Shepard. But interested. Very interested. For now, I should work and think.
Rhea Ripley and her, you know what I'm saying, Jade Cargill brings up an idea. She basically says that, you know, she sees Rhea Ripley always in creative spending time together. You guys remember when Jade said that a month or two ago, right? And then lo and behold, that actually pissed off Rhea Ripley. You could tell it actually pissed her off. Why would that be pissing her off if it wasn't actually legitimate heat and a legitimate thing that Jade Cargill exposed? And when you see how much time Triple H and Rhea are spending together,
The way he hugs up on her and goes in and sniffs that hair. Game.
you know what I'm saying? Triple H spending all that time with Rhea Ripley. Clearly, she's one of his favorites. And lo and behold, at WrestleMania 42, after absolutely sucking the life out of Io Sky for around a year at this point, which is what Rhea Ripley has done to Io Sky, just making her be a lackey sidekick jobber for no reason when she's one of the best women's wrestlers on the planet, all of a sudden, Rhea Ripley gets elevated to win a WWE Women's Championship. After all that of Rhea telling bad stories, being forced in a main event last year, being overpushed before that without even wrestling or telling any good stories or having any good promos, and now this year, because she's mad that Jade Cargill called out her and Triple H's creative, you know what I'm saying, connection, Rhea is randomly rewarded now with a WWE Women's Championship. I'm just saying, I don't want to start any conspiracy theories, but I mean, come on, man. When you win, you know what I'm saying? I mean, clearly Triple H is being called out here, you know what I'm saying, with the creative and his favorites, and of course, his favorites get treated the exact same way that's kind of described. Cody Rhodes retains a championship. I'm unsure whether that was because of Orton's injury directly or not, but even then, if Orton was hurt, you could have still had him have his moment in front of his family there, you know what I'm saying, win his 15th at Mania, and then relinquish it or drop it on SmackDown if he's really that injured, right? So Cody Rhodes got his moment to retain his belt, and then of course, Rhea Ripley won her 19,000th World Championship, it feels like, because she had a reign for like a year, and then she had multiple other reigns, you know what I'm saying, besides that, and now she's taking my guitar that she never lost, yeah, for another time. So, you know, it is what it is at this point, but we have to start realizing these little signs and indicators of what's happening with creative. And again, even beyond this stuff, if you actually look at, you know what I'm saying, the what's called the interview itself, it's still very evident, guys, and you can just look this up for yourself if you don't believe me, you know what I'm saying, don't take my word for it, it's not just me saying it, you know what I'm saying, go Google it for yourself. But when you see, guys, Bleacher Report giving this company and giving these shows D's and F grades and C- grades and stuff like that, you see Bleacher Report just gave Mania Night 1 a D grade, you understand what I'm saying, and I think Night 2 was a B or an A, which is good for them, but still, they're giving, most of these PLEs are getting D's. I think Royal Rumble got a D as well, the Chamber may have gotten a C or a D. These shows are garbage, and these public trades and these news outlets are reporting it, you know what I'm saying, and WWE is silencing ESPN from doing the reviews for their shows anymore. They know the shows are terrible, guys, they understand that, but the person who is in control still of the weekly booking, the low cards, the mid cards, the upper cards, is Triple Fraud. He is booking the show. In the writer's room, they are the ones creating what you see every single week. TKO may have added Pat McAfee. They add Logan Paul. They add The Rock. That's great. That's three instances where they did that. We still have over what? Since TKO took over in what, 2023? It's been nearly 3 years, guys. It's been nearly 3 years of this sample size of Triple Fraud. You know this dude's not good. Raw and SmackDown have been dead and lifeless for a long time. And the only reason why anyone even cares to watch these shows anymore is because of people like Roman or like Punk, you know what I'm saying? Or even like Randy Orton, things of that nature, or Brock Lesnar, you know what I'm saying? But now he's gone, and now they're trying to see the up and coming people like Trick Williams, you know what I'm saying? Oba Femi, and we're watching and continuing to see this product in hopes that it finally gets better, because we love professional wrestling. We want it to be great. But under Triple Fraud, it has simply been awful for well over a year at this point, and we have to actually accept these things and be honest about it. Adding in celebrities does not ultimately mean that the shows and the quality of the Mania and everything just has to ultimately become bad. If you are tasked with the idea of having The Rock and Cena show up, and you choose to make Cena go heel and have that segment, you then have to follow that up with a great storyline and a great heel run for John Cena. And did Triple H do that? No. John Cena had maybe 1 or 2 solid feuds as a heel. Him and CM Punk was a solid, you know what I'm saying, 3-week build or whatever, 3-week, you know what I'm saying, feud that they took place in, and that was basically it. I don't think any other storyline with Cena as a heel was genuinely good or above that, and that's just the bottom line. So like I said before, it's important to look at the context and not just read headlines. If you just read headlines and go with whatever you're hearing, you know what I'm saying, on the internet about TKO's fault, this person's fault, that person's fault, the bottom line is that TKO and Triple Fraud are working in unison to make this company worse. TKO, from a financial aspect and the presentation of shows, you know what I'm saying, with the ads and all that stuff, they're working to make the product worse. I will agree with that, and they should be held accountable to that extent. But the actual quality of the creative, the booking, the matches, the repetitive and boring, awful shows, the terrible back-to-back Mania builds that we have gotten, and the absolutely lifeless shows that we're getting week to week, and the fact that we built 0 new stars. Oba Femi and Trick Williams were not built by Triple H. Shawn Michaels built them in NXT, and they came to the main roster and were already automatically over. Triple H has done nothing new to help get anyone over. You know what I'm saying? Besides having Oba Femi beat, you know what I'm saying, Brock Lesnar, but Brock Lesnar was really the one behind the scenes, you know what I'm saying, actually pushing to fight Oba Femi. That was an official report. He pushed to fight Oba Femi, and he shockingly retired without WWE or TKO really expecting it. So that was all really about Brock and Heyman and Oba. Then for Trick Williams, he's a mid-card champion right now, and he's super over. It's not like there's any extravagant or excellent storyline he's been involved in yet. So do we have, you know what I'm saying, the jury's still out on that. We have to see how Trick Williams is even going to get booked going forward. But the bottom line is like I said before, they're both working in lockstep according to Nick Khan himself, and Triple Fraud has actively made this company worse in every specific way when it comes to the quality of the product, the writing of the product, the booking of the product in every single championship reign. Every single championship reign in the last few years, guys, has been awful. Every single one of them. A title reign is not good because they put on a couple of bangers. That's not good. There's been no stories, there's been no feuds with these belts, and everything feels absolutely redundant and terrible. And I'm not going to sit here and blame these billionaires who are just trying to cut checks. They don't give a crap about the week-to-week shows. Triple H is the one who's supposed to give a crap about the week-to-week shows, and he doesn't even show up to some of the shows in Gorilla. So that's not an excuse, man. TKO is a part of the problem. You know what I'm saying? As to why the company has gone down. They're a part of the problem. I'd say they're maybe like 20% of the deal. Maybe 30 if you really push it. But 70 to 80% of why things are as bad as the way that they are is because of the dudes who are running your shows, your creative room, your writers, and your head booker who wants to be on the poster of every little thing, Paul Levesque. And with that being said, that's all I have to say about this topic. Have to bust open these narratives, you know what I'm saying, and really expose the reality here, because if not, fans will just go ahead and latch onto whatever they hear or see on the internet, and I gotta be there, you know what I'm saying, to give my little 2 cents on it, and hopefully crack your cranium and fertilize your brain and give you some of that knowledge, you understand what I'm saying? So, thank you all for watching. Let me know what you guys thought in the comment section below, and as always, have a phenomenal day. Peace out in one love. Bye.
In this world, whether we know it or not, we all serve many gods, ranging from things as simple as our phones and the news, to substances and video games, to gluttony, and all the way to religious beings like God or Muhammad or Buddha. But the question that looms above all of that is, who told us which god we should serve? What controls every single motivation and desire in this world? That question has haunted millions of people for thousands of years. And perhaps the horrific answer to that question lies in a book that was published in 2008. An answer so disturbing that few people dare think about it. An answer that might make you look at history through an entirely different lens. An answer that might open your eyes to the corruption and rot that hides beneath the floorboards. Oil is sentient, and humans serve its interests. In this video, I will dive deeply into the book known as Cyclonopedia, which proposes the theory that I just read to you. I will examine the psychological implications and the historical, societal, and political impacts that this theory could have on all of humanity, as I do believe this is one of, if not the darkest theories throughout human history. This video in theory relates closely to humanity's insatiable desire to grow and to expand through the Industrial Revolution and onward. And this theory really asks us to question what causes that insatiable desire to grow. If you enjoy these types of theories and deep dives and videos like this, stick around. This one will get crazy, so go ahead, grab a bucket of popcorn, open up your mind, grab your tinfoil hat, and let's get into the darkest theory in human history. The theory. In the simplest terms possible, the theory that this video is about states that the material that we know as oil or petroleum is actually sentient and it has agency, and underneath our noses it has been working to control the earth and humanity to serve its desires and best interests, and that it's been doing so since the dawn of time. That sounds insane, right? An inanimate goo controlling all of our desires, all of our achievements, all of our wants to go forward. Crazy, right? Right? Let me point you directly to the book that proposes this theory and describe it so it might make a little bit more sense to you. Cyclonopedia. Cyclonopedia is a speculative book that was written by Reza Negarestani. Now, Negarestani himself is an Iranian philosopher who is best known for this book, but he spent his entire life philosophizing and theorizing humanity and all the concepts that lie within. For a while, he bounced around between different philosophical phases, beginning with beliefs in speculative realism, and eventually finding his standing in the rationalist and humanism camp. Now, I'm not going to pretend like I know what any of that means or the differences between those beliefs, so I'm going to link videos and articles below if you really want to dive deeper into them. But as far as this video is concerned, Cyclonopedia is the most impactful work of Negarestani's career and possibly the entire genre, because essentially it pioneered this new genre when it was released back in 2008. The genre in question is now known as theory fiction, and it's underneath that name where we get the theory that today's video is about. In order for you to understand the theory and understand the evidence and everything that's behind it, I will have to give a summary of the book Cyclonopedia, so that's what this next part's going to be. I completely and utterly suggest reading the entire book yourself if you want to get all the details from the first-hand account. This is a summary. It does not replace the book. Please read the book if you want to, but if you just want to turn this on in the background, or if you're just a casual listener and you want to hear about weird oil controlling all humanity, this is the video for you. Cyclonopedia states that, quote, "The Middle East is a sentient entity. It's alive." And the book essentially dives deep into that idea. It funnels those thoughts into talking about the wars that are in the Middle East, humanity's achievements, and all of humanity's ideas, advancements, politics, socioeconomic factors, all of that coming and trickling back down to one single thing: oil. In order to get the most accurate summary before I give my perspective on it, I will read the short book summary that is given, and from this, you'll be able to see what it's all about. At once a horror fiction, a work of speculative theology, an atlas of demonology, a political seismodat, and philosophic grimoire, Cyclonopedia is a work of theory fiction on the Middle East, where horror is restlessly heaped upon horror. Reza Negarestani bridges the appalling vistas of contemporary world politics and the war with the archaeologies of the Middle East and the natural history of the Earth itself. Cyclonopedia is a Middle Eastern odyssey populated by archaeologists, heresiarchs, corpses of ancient gods, and other puppets. The journey to the underworld begins with petroleum basins and the rotting sun, continuing along the tentacled pipelines of oil, and at last unfolding in the desert, where monotheism meets the Earth's tearing dreams of insurrection against the sun. The Middle East is a sentient entity. It is alive, concludes the renegade Iranian archaeologist Dr. Hamid Persani, before disappearing under mysterious circumstances. The disordered notes he leaves behind testify to an increasingly deranged preoccupation with oil as the, quote, lubricant of historical and political narratives. A young American woman arrives in Istanbul to meet a pseudonymed online acquaintance who never arrives. Discovering a strange manuscript in her hotel room, she follows up with its cryptic clues, only to discover more plot holes, and she begins to wonder whether her friend was a fictional quantity all along. Meanwhile, as the War on Terror escalates, the US is dragged into an asymmetrical engagement with occulters whose principles are ancient and obscure and saturated in oil. It is as if war itself is feeding upon the war machines, seducing the aggressors into the dark heart of oil. So as cool and awesome as that sounds, in layman's terms, it's kinda similar to the Dune series, except instead of spice and Arrakis and the Fremen and the Harkonnen, this book is about oil, the Middle East, the jihadis, the oil families, archaeologists, big oil, and the socioeconomic and political happenings that are within all of that. The book itself is extremely expansive, and it really is just way too long to summarize on YouTube, so I won't be going over each individual section. I will instead focus on the part of the book that goes with the theory that this video is about. I want you to continue watching the rest of this video with an open mind. While this work is completely fiction and theory fiction, asking these questions that the book proposes is very important as a basic human to understand why we do the things that we do, and why society is shaped the exact way it is. Take an introspective look in your own life and see just how much of it is controlled by oil, even down to the most minute parts of it. With all that out of the way, let's now dive into the specific parts of the book that go over this theory. I will be reading the excerpts directly from the text to you, giving my own insights and my own interpretations of this text, and connecting it with everything that we know in life. Strap that tinfoil hat on, you're gonna need it, and let's get into it. Nagarastani in Cyclonopedia asks the question, why so many wars have been fought inside and around the Middle East since the days of old, the Bible times, the beginning. What is the root cause, and why is it so ingrained in every aspect of many people's lives? He encourages you to rip back the surface level understanding of these wars and dig down to the root cause of most of it. And again, he claims that the root cause is petroleum, oil, Tellurian lube. Essentially, Cyclonopedia is saying that oil has a life and an intelligence in its own right, and it really desires and wants to be used by humans in order to create and produce energy and heat. And by proxy, that means warfare and geopolitical turmoil. In a way, oil and earth are both alive. They're both entities in their own right, and they're sentient. And along that line of thinking, earth and oil want to begin this interdimensional apocalyptic death. You know, the Gog and the Magog that I've discussed in this video, the ending of everything. Because the earth kind of sees the sun shining on it, and it almost has an opposition, a little sibling syndrome, if you will, to the sun's light. The earth desires to be more, so this oil is produced and extracted to produce more and more heat and more growth, and by result, more and more death. Humanity is warmongering. We are starving and desiring progress and mining and harvesting of these fossil fuels and this oil. And we will continue to do so at growing rates until we meet our own demise at our own hands. This book, Cyclonopedia, really shows the world as this giant chess match, except every piece involves a different geopolitical party, a different race, a different ethnicity, all vying for the same substance, the same ends. That would be to mine and harvest this oil. Except it's because the earth wants its oil to be mined. That way we produce more and grow more and become this one giant war machine. The narcissism, the depravity, the avarice of mankind to mine the oil to harvest it will eventually cause a self-destructive collapse, all because oil and the earth wants to outshine the sun. I think. This book is very complicated. Quote, the answer is oil. The war on terror cannot be radically and technically grasped as a machine without consideration of the oil that greases its parts and recomposes its flows. He then goes on to describe oil as a Tellurian lube, or in simple terms, the liquid that Earth, Terra, runs off of, the blood that flows through its proverbial veins. The following excerpt from the book explains that in more detail. The discussion at Hyperstition ultimately developed into what would later be defined as blobjectivity, or the logics of the petropolitical undercurrents. According to a blobjective point of view, petropolitical undercurrents function as narrative loops. They interconnect inconsistencies, anomalies, or what we might simply call the plot holes in narratives of planetary formations and activities. To this extent, petropolitical undercurrents run through terrestrial decoding machines, conspiracies, politics, and Tellurian dynamics. A blobjective view necessarily diverges from the Earth as a whole towards an entirely different entity, an Earth under the process of Earthication. Earthication is a process spread out in at least 3 directions. One is the leveling of all planetary erections, idols, or the attainment of a burning imminence with the sun and the burning core of the Earth. Number 2, the immersion of the planetary body in flows and undercurrents, pushing the Earth towards full-fledged sogginess. And number 3, a participation with the Earth as a manifest degenerate entity for which wholeness is but a superficial distraction. War on Terror cannot be radically and technically grasped as a machine without consideration of the oil that greases its parts and recomposes its flows. Such consideration must begin with the twilight of hydrocarbon and the very dawn of Earth. Obviously, I know that was a lot to read, a lot to take in, and a lot of fancy words being thrown at you, but essentially, Nagarastani is pointing to the fact that the war machine, the idea of war and fighting over these religious institutions and fighting over all these things as it relates to the Middle East goes deeper than just petty boundary battles. He even brings into the fact that somehow the sun and the core of the Earth are connected, because oil comes from very deep in the ground near the core of the Earth. He introduces this concept of a blobjective viewpoint, which, as he said, blobjectivity is just the logistics of the petropolitical state of the world, meaning how oil flows through society and the economy. He promotes these ideas of oil being the lubricant that fuels the war machine of the Earth. And there at the very end of that page, he begins to discuss the Gog-Magog axis. We'll touch more on that later, but essentially this ties the theory into Abrahamic religion. I love that quote where he says the answer is oil. Nagarastani essentially calls the oil system the pipeline, the export and the import of it, that interconnect the inconsistencies and anomalies of the entire Earth. Think of pipelines and oil rigs as the veins and capillaries that drive this so-called heart or core of oil of the Earth. Again, I know this sounds kind of outlandish, kind of weird. Stick with me while I read this next page. Nagarastani then goes on to recount Dean Koontz novel called Phantoms, in which Timothy Flight, a renegade paleontologist, describes in jest the monster or the entity of oil that Nagarastani also thinks about. Quote, in Dean Koontz's novel Phantoms, Timothy Flight, a renegade paleontologist who considers himself a professor of ancient epidemics, is a tabloid writer researching an unmanageable Tellurian sentient being, which he calls the Ancient Enemy, responsible for devouring countless civilizations. The Aztecs and the lost colony at Roanoke, for example. Timothy Flight finds many parallel traits between the Ancient Enemy and the Antichrist. Examining the corpses of the victims, he detects trace amounts of porphyrin, a chemical substance common to blood, plants, and petroleum. The Ancient Enemy, or the Tellurian Antichrist, which persistently looms in the Mesopotamian Dead Seas, or near the oceans, is indeed petroleum, or naft, the Arabic and Farsi word for oil. According to the classic theory of fossil fuels, petroleum was formed as a Tellurian entity under unimaginable pressure and heat in the absence of oxygen and between the strata, in absolute isolation. Petroleum's Hadean formation developed a satanic sentience through the politics of in-between, which inevitably wells up through the god complex deposited in the strata. petroleum's autonomous line of emergence is twisted beyond recognition. Emerged under such conditions, petroleum possesses tendencies for mass intoxication on pandemic scales. So in that page, Nagarastani calls back to a book that was written in which he believed the biohazardous predator called the Ancient Enemy is very similar to the Antichrist in the way it's described, where it comes from, and its characteristics. Nagarastani believes this Ancient Enemy, or the Tellurian Antichrist, to be petroleum, or naft, the Arabic and Farsi words for oil. He calls into question the common belief that oil is created in absolute isolation between unimaginable pressure and heat and the absence of oxygen underneath all the earth. He posits that because of its creation in the core of the earth in this sun-like place, that the oil could develop a god complex as it's deposited into the strata. Just as many monotheistic beliefs in Abrahamic religions liken the god or gods to the sun, the oil could do the same. And since it was created in a place of unimaginable heat and pressure, like the sun, it itself might be so emboldened to call itself God. Emerged under such conditions, petroleum possesses tendencies for mass intoxication on pandemic scales. Throughout this entire work, Nagarastani likens oil, or the Ancient One, almost as some sort of Lovecraftian entity, this being that is self-aware and that knows how to fulfill its own prophecy of destruction and control. A creature that knows how to make itself useful and prop itself up on a pedestal. Really a horrifying thought to even ponder. It's in our cars, it's in our engines, it's in our planes, it's in our technology, it's in our ground. It's at the center of every geopolitical war. It backs our currencies. It is everywhere. It is both the cause of and solution to life and death in many scenarios. Oil has society wrapped around its finger. Down further in Cyclonopedia, Nagarastani takes it a step further, if that's even possible, drawing the mathematical equations and axes between Gog and Magog as they're mentioned in the biblical book of Revelations, and showing how the undercurrent of the petropolitical state and the flow of oil could eventually propel forward this biblical apocalypse. Now, Gog and Magog are mentioned in the biblical book of Revelations, and they're supposed to be this idea of nations fighting this end-time apocalyptic war. And Nagarastani creates these graphs to show X and Y, Gog and Magog, moving towards each other because of the flow of oil. Could humanity, using the petropolitical state of oil, end up causing this Gog and Magog spiritual apocalypse? And if so, will humanity continue to base its evolution into more technology and warfare around the concept of oil? Bloody wars have been fought in the past over this oil, wars in the present as well. Who's to say that it won't be our own undoing in the end? It seems, therefore, that both the techno-capitalist process of desertification of the War on Terror and the radical monotheistic ethos for the desert converge upon oil as an object of production, a pivot of terror, a fuel, a politico-economic lubricant, and an entity whose life is directly connected to the earth. While for Western techno-capitalism, the desert gives rise to the oilness of war machines and the hyperconsumption of capitalism en route to singularity, for jihad, oil is a catalyst to speed the rise of the kingdom, the desert. Thus, for jihad, the desert lies at the end of an oil pipeline. Or, once again, take oil as a lubricant, something that eases narration and the whole dynamism towards the desert. The cartography of oil, as an omnipresent entity, narrates the dynamics of planetary events. Oil is the undercurrent of all the narrations, not only the political, but also the ethics of life on Earth. Oil lubes the whole desert expedition towards the Tellurian Omega, either as the desert god or the host of the singularity of New Earth. As a Tellurian lube, oil simply makes things move forward. Kuntz's Phantoms is key for this movement towards the Tellurian Omega through the superficial gas pipeline, the subterranean oil reserves, and the deeply catonic thingness of petroleum, the blob.
How are you doing?
To grasp oil as a lube is to grasp Earth as a body of different narrations being moved forward by oil. In a nutshell, oil is a lube for the divergent lines of terrestrial narration. Again, this next page, Nagarastani is nailing home the fact
If you
that
know that,
every
then you
single
know that I could use
action
your help.
taken on a planetary
can't,
scale
Shepard.
is lubricated
I'm
and
sorry.
propelled
I have
forward
commitments here.
by
Things I
oil.
need to take
the
care
last
of.
paragraph on this page is also extremely
What kind of
interesting
things do you
to
need
me.
to take care of?
It reads as
Are you in
follows.
trouble?
No
Kunt's
trouble.
imagery is
But
really
it's been a
helpful
long
for
2 years.
grasping the thingness of oil,
Listen,
its
if you want
subterranean
to help,
cohesion
I need
as a
someone with
singular,
time.
anorganic body
If you
with
could
its
disable
own
security at key
agendas. And
points
here we
around
finally get
Ilium,
Nagarastani
you could get me
talking
information
about
I
the
need.
sentience of oil.
That would help me
Quote,
a great
assuming
deal.
here that the
What's
blob
this all
takes
about,
on
Liara?
an
Can't you
increasing
just talk to
function
me?
on the
Don't
journey
you think I
upriver
want to,
from gas
Shepard?
station to
This
Katonet
isn't
Reservoir.
because this is
Bush
Ilium.
and Bin Laden
Anything
are
I say
obviously
is
What's this all about,
petropolitical
Liara?
puppets
Can't you just-
convulsing
Don't you
along
think
the
this is Ilium?
catonic stirrings of the
Anything I
blob.
say is probably
Collapse
being
all
recorded.
manifest
If it'll help
policies
you,
and
I'll take care of it.
ideologies onto
When
the
you have
Tellurian
one,
narratives
a
of
server
oil
will open
seepage. The
somewhere
concrete
nearby
war
for a short-
machines
Thank
chopping
you,
up
Shepard.
contemporaneity
This may help me
are
pay a great
indubitably very oily. The oil
There's no story
industry is
named Samara
utterly
here on Ilium.
ruinous for independent and non-collective
Yes.
oil
can
producers.
find
But
Dara
when
at
it
the
comes to oil,
transportation
they
hub.
are distanced from each other
I'm
by
looking for
different
Thane Krieg.
petroleum
He's supposed
extraction
to be here.
processes and political
Yes.
agendas.
He arrived
In
here a
terms
few
of
days
oil,
ago.
all they
He
share
contacted
is
a woman.
poverty
Serena
and
has an
ruination.
office in the
However, in
cargo
the case of the
transfer
Islamic Front, oil
Perhaps
has been
she can tell you
mutated
where
into a
Krios
kind
is.
of constructive
Thanks for the help.
parasite
Of course.
through
If
which
there's anything
economical,
else I can help you with.
military, and political brotherhood emerges.
I'll talk
For
to
the
you
Middle
later,
Eastern
Liara.
countries, there is a strategic symbiosis between oil as a parasite and monotheism's burning core. Because oil wells up on the, quote, Islamic continent, not a mere geopolitical boundary. Islam has perceived oil as an ultimate Tellurian lubricant, or as a lube of all the narrations on Earth. Once again, these paragraphs are where Nagarastani props up and promotes the ideas that these socio-political systems, specifically in the Middle East, but also worldwide, are controlled and propped up by this oil entity, this blob, this ancient being, this creature formed under fire and smoke, the pressure of being miles and miles underneath the surface. Does it think it's a god, and are we its servants? There is one last paragraph I would like to read to you before I go to the conclusion of this video. It reads as follows. Quote, an autonomous chemical weapon belonging to Earth as both a sentient entity and event, petroleum poisons capital with absolute madness.
Serena?
Planetary plague bleeding into
Named
economies
Shepard.
mobilized
Liara
by
Tassani
the
said you might
technological singularities of advanced
Tana,
civilizations.
cover for me.
In the wake of oil, as
Over
an
here.
autonomous terrestrial conspirator,
Yeah, I know who Thane
capitalism
Krios
is
is.
not
I
a
might have
human
passed him some
symptom,
information, but I didn't
rather
hire him.
a
What do you wanna
planetary inevitability.
Just tell me what you know
Or
about
in
I ran
other words,
security for Nasana
capitalism
Dantius.
was here
Then she
even
fired me
before
when I
human
confronted
existence,
Her loss.
waiting for
I might have
a
been good enough to
host.
stop.
Just tell me where I can find things.
I think that paragraph
Dantius
sums up
Towers.
the entire book of the Cyclonopedia and Nagarastani's beliefs in this book about oil. Petroleum poisons the capital, which symbolizes the world,
There's a second
into
tower
absolute
still under
madness.
construction.
It is a
If Thane is
plague
smart,
that
he'll go in
seeps
from
from the
there.
dark,
Doesn't sound like
grotesque
Nasana's
blob heart of
I can
the
get you
earth,
in, but you'll
and it
only get one
bleeds
shot.
out and
You
seeps
better be
into the
ready.
economies,
I'm ready now.
mobilizing
That's what I
war
like.
efforts,
We'll go
causing
tonight as soon
friction
as the
and
shift
fractures
workers-
between civilizations. He calls oil an autonomous terrestrial conspirator that not only promotes capitalism, but created it. Because, in other words, capitalism was here even before human existence, waiting for a host. There is so much more to the Cyclonopedia that I cannot possibly fit into a YouTube video, and especially with my just general
Towers are
lack of
heavily guarded
understanding
and
of a
you'll
lot of the
find more
topics,
resistance
I
closer
wanted
to
to
the
touch
Pentagon.
just on the theory
So,
this
this
video is
assassin,
about.
you planning to
Oil
stop him?
being sentient
I'm just here to make sure
and
he
humanity
survives.
serving its interests, and I hope and I think that I got that point across without rambling too much. I will link the book below if you want to purchase it. I 100% recommend reading it. I might do a follow-up
There they
video to
are,
this if
Dantius
you want to see
Towers.
more
You'll have to get up to the
geopolitical
second tower and cross the bridge
oil-related
to the
things like this.
penthouse.
But I think I've been able
Her
to get
mercs will
across
fight you
what
every step,
Nagarastani
but it's your
wanted
best
to
chance.
promote up in the simplest way possible. His
might
work,
find him before he
although
goes then.
theoretical
Maybe. At
fiction,
least you'll know where he's
it
headed.
really should make you think.
All right.
Is oil
Hold on.
this Lovecraftian that literally just rules over humanity from the depths of the earth? Is almost every single thing that every single country does related to the production and housing of oil? Quote, as soon as it ignites, it sticks to objects, blurring them, pervading them, but never allowing them to
Don't live too long.
evaporate
They'll
or
be here to
reduce to
grieve you soon
ashes.
enough.
It keeps them in another form to burn.
Good
It is
luck,
the
Shepard.
only incendiary substance that thickens as it flows. Love is incomplete burning. In my scarred, fevered skin, you see a person who belongs to sickness. In your healthy flesh, I see the same. Oil was discovered in Iran, or Persia at the time, back in 1901. And in that last 123 years, think about how much we as a society, we as the Earth, has changed and morphed. Human history dates back thousands of years before 1901. However, the advancements that have been made in these last 100 years are so much further beyond the advancements made in the thousands of years before we found oil. Transportation, infrastructure, ideation, society, food, warfare, it is all built on the finding of oil. Crude oil goes into our machines, our computers, our cars, our earth-moving equipment, our planes. Oil is at the root of everything, and Nagarastani explains that in his works, maybe a little too thoroughly. But if oil is this entity, this being that seeks to control, where does it come from? Who put it here, and why does it have this draw to do so? Is it like Nagarastani says, and because of its creation deep in the bowels of the earth, in the hot, sun-like environment, it believes itself to be a god? Or is it because thousands of years ago, aliens crashed here and had oil with them and it seeped into the ground and grew? Or is it more of like an all tomorrows approach, that millennia ago, humanity devolved into this anthropomorphic goo, whether through a punishment or their own hubris, and that oil is now the melted remains of that lost generation? Yes, all of the theories I have discussed are extremely far-fetched, as most of you know, but at the end of the day, we still have to wonder why petroleum, this Tellurian lube, this black gold, this Texas tea, this manna from heaven, is so important. We survived thousands of years before we found it and utilized it. Why is it now the only thing able to bring us into the modern age? Well, not the only thing, but one of the main things. And because of that, and a byproduct of that, will it simultaneously be the downfall of humanity? Will it bring about Gog and Magog? Will we all sink and drown in the Tellurian lube of the world? Oil begets advancement, begets war, begets death, and sin begets sin, begets sin, begets sin. Thank you all for watching until the end of the video. I hope this was cohesive enough to make any sense at all. I really love making videos like this, but it's kind of hard to put these kind of books and theories into an understandable way for a short YouTube video. So I tried my best. If it didn't make any sense, sorry. There is so much more to Cyclonopedia. I 1,000,000,000% recommend you to read the book. It is literally eye-opening and incredible. I just wanted to get across the point that Nagarastani touches on, how oil is indeed a sentient entity in a way, and humanity might serve its desires by using it. So again, I hope I made it make sense. If you did enjoy it, please leave a like. I really love making these kind of videos and I want to make more. And comment your opinions on the theory. I want to see what y'all have to say. I want to see the theories and everything y'all come up with. Can't wait to see that. Love and appreciate each and every one of you. Make sure you tell somebody you love them as well. And with all that said, I will see you in the next video. Thank you for your support and have a great day.
Most people think of dimensions as directions: left, right, forward and back, up and down, and maybe time as well if we're feeling generous. This framing is comfortable because it preserves the idea that reality is fundamentally stable, and that higher dimensions are simply extensions of what we already know. But that assumption is completely wrong. In the next 30 minutes, you're going to question everything you thought you knew about the universe. With each new dimension that we explore, it'll become clearer to you that the physical laws that bind us are not universal. They're local, conditional, dependent on the fact that we're trapped in the third dimension. But let's not get ahead of ourselves now. To understand higher dimensions, we must first understand the most basic of them, the first and second dimensions. A one-dimensional world is a line. It has length, but nothing else. No width, no depth, no concept of around or beside. The only movement that exists is forward and backward. To trap a one-dimensional object, you only need two lines, one in front and the other behind. That alone completely traps the object. But a two-dimensional object can simply step to the left or the right to escape this prison. In 2 dimensions, we roughly start to see the world as we know it taking shape. Length and width forms a plane. You get shapes like squares and circles. The concepts of beside and around, they start to make sense. But depth is still missing, and that absence carries consequences that are easy to overlook when you don't think too deeply about them. In a 2-dimensional world, nothing has an interior in the way that we understand it. Everything is defined by its outline. A body is not a volume, but it's a border. A creature sees only edges, never what lies within another being, no matter how close it gets. From inside that world, this feels normal. It's complete. It's sufficient. Up until something looks down on it. Now, a 3-dimensional observer, like us, viewing a 2-dimensional plane, instantly destroys this illusion of privacy. Every internal structure is visible at once: hearts, organs, mechanisms, all exposed without any resistance. There's no need to cut into these objects to see inside the creature, because inside and outside are not protected categories anymore. They were simply artifacts of limited perspective. This is the first truly unsettling lesson of dimensions. The way that our world works, we think of using force to invade, but when you start thinking in the level of dimensions, you don't need any kind of force. You can simply bypass all of those defense mechanisms. Think of it like trying to use a wall to stop a ghost. It'll simply just go through the wall like that resistance didn't exist in the first place. If a 3-dimensional being turns the hat of a 2-dimensional being over, there's now no way for that 2-dimensional being to ever get that hat back in place. To make things more unsettling, a 3-dimensional being could perform surgery on a 2-dimensional creature without ever breaking its skin. The organs of the 2-dimensional creature would simply disappear without any force or resistance. From the lower dimensional point of view, this would feel like magic or divine intervention or reality malfunctioning. The same logic then applies to imprisonment. So in 2 dimensions, drawing a square around a creature is a perfect prison. There's no up, no down. That boundary is absolute. But to a 3-dimensional being, the prison isn't just broken, it's wholly irrelevant. One step over the line and everything is, well, non-existent. Nothing about the square has changed, by the way. The rules just stopped applying. And I want to be clear, this is not a metaphor. This is how dimensions work. Now, with that in mind, consider the uncomfortable implication. Our own sense of physical laws only feel absolute because we are trapped inside them. But before we go on, there's something about mental health that we don't talk about enough. Your physical looks quietly shape how you feel. Even something as basic as shaving can mess with your confidence if your skin reacts badly. For years, I couldn't figure out why I kept getting irritation every time I shaved. I assumed it was something wrong with me. Maybe I wasn't using enough cream. Maybe my skin was just overly sensitive. So I tried cold water tricks, fancy balms, even changing my shaving routine, but nothing solved it. What I didn't realize is that most razors actually do create irritation by design. They flex, they wiggle, and they rely on pressure to get a close shave, which basically means you're scraping off the top layer of your skin whether you intend to or not. Once I learned that, everything finally made sense. So I started looking for razors that are built differently. After trying different kinds of razors, I stumbled upon Henson. Their whole design philosophy is to eliminate that blade wiggle. The razor is engineered so precisely that the blade barely sticks out, meaning that it cuts hair without grazing the skin. The first time I used the blade, it honestly felt incredible. After years of trying different techniques, it finally clicked for me. I was done shaving and there was no redness, no bumps, no irritation that made me look like I had lost a fight with my chin. I was already hooked on the Henson train. But what made me a true believer was that unlike most other manufacturers that only allow you to use their own proprietary, expensive blades, Henson uses standard DE blades, which means that you can use any standard DE blade. No subscriptions, no gimmicks. It's just a simplistic form of transport we have is simply finding a way to bypass two-dimensional congestion by exploiting the third dimension. Subways go under, planes go over. All these different inventions do is bypass the two-dimensional traffic. It doesn't free us from the limitations of time and space. So far, physics feels strict, but they're understandable. Everything has a physical limit that we cannot break, no matter how far ahead we think. However, this feeling completely falls apart once you start going higher. The fourth dimension arrives in two forms, and both are destabilizing. The first is time, and not time as the poetic passing of events that we conceptualize it to be, but as a coordinate. In this understanding, you don't simply exist somewhere, you also exist sometime. And in a way, we already experience this dimension. A location without a time is meaningless to us. Meet me at the library is incomplete without at noon. Seen this way, you're not a body moving through time, you're a four-dimensional object stretched across it, a world line. Your birth, every action you've ever taken, and your death are not events that you approach. They're locations on a structure you already occupy. You experience this structure one slice at a time, the way a two-dimensional being would experience a three-dimensional object passing through its plane. This alone quietly breaks our intuition about freedom. If time is a dimension, then your life isn't unfolding, it already exists as a shape. From start to finish, you are predefined. But the more disturbing interpretation of the fourth dimension is spatial. A fourth spatial dimension does to us exactly what we do to two-dimensional worlds. A four-dimensional observer wouldn't see your surface. They would see everything. Organs, blood flow, digestion, tumors, neural activity, your entire body exposed without any form of penetration. The same you can conduct surgery on a two-dimensional object without any injuries is the same way a four-dimensional object can on you. Now to you, this would feel like a violation without cause, a lawless intrusion. To them, it would feel as trivial as placing your finger in the middle of a circle. If a four-dimensional object entered our world, we would not perceive it as a whole object. We would only be able to observe its cross-sections, a point appearing from nothing and disappearing from nowhere, growing into a sphere, shrinking, vanishing, a ghost, not because it's transparent, but because it's incomplete. At this level, physics don't explode yet, but it does give us a glimpse. It shows us that everything that we think is protected on a fundamental level simply isn't. Now, the fourth dimension doesn't feel dangerous at first. It feels abstract. It almost feels philosophical. It's something you can gesture towards without letting it touch you. But abstraction is only a shield until the structure begins to assert itself. Once you follow the consequences instead of the metaphor, the fourth dimension becomes the point where physics stops acting like a barrier and starts behaving like a suggestion. In 3 dimensions, knots are permanent. They are a physical fact. A string can trap itself. A constraint forms because there is no available direction for escape, and this is why our headphones getting tangled feels so frustrating. The problem isn't the string itself, it's the space. The moment you introduce a fourth spatial dimension, knots lose their meaning. A knotted shoelace lifted into 4 dimensions simply slides around itself and falls apart. Nothing is breaking, you're not cutting the string. The knot just doesn't resist. It never truly existed. It was just an illusion created by insufficient room for it to explore. And this is a recurring pattern in higher dimensions. What feels like structure from below turns out to be congestion, a limit of space, and not an impossibility. This is why certain objects cannot exist properly in our universe. Take the Klein bottle, for example. In 3 dimensions, it looks like a bottle that intersects itself, as if it were carelessly designed. But in 4 dimensions, it doesn't intersect at all. It has no inside and no outside. The contradiction isn't in the objects, it's in the space that we're forcing them into. When mathematicians draw a Klein bottle in 3 dimensions, they're not showing you what it is. They're showing you what happens when something real is crushed into an insufficient world. And this matters because it hints at something that is deeply unsettling. Reality, as we know it, may be full of objects and processes that only look paradoxical because we're seeing broken projections of them and not the full thing. By the time we reach the 5th dimension, physics begin to betray its own assumptions. In the 1920s, Theodor Kaluza rewrote Einstein's equations of gravity using 5 dimensions instead of 4. This mathematical experiment was designed to ask one simple question. What would happen if space-time had one more spatial direction? The result was unexpected and deeply uncomfortable. The equations split cleanly into 2 parts. One part described gravity exactly as Einstein had formulated it. The other part described electromagnetism with perfect precision. Light, magnetism, electric fields, all of it emerged automatically. In 5 dimensions, electromagnetism is not a separate force, it's geometry. This means something profound and very difficult to sit with. Light may not be fundamental. It may be a vibration in a direction that we can't access, a ripple in a dimension that we don't experience. From our perspective, gravity and light feel distinct because we are confined to a slice of reality that fractures them apart. However, from 5 dimensions, they could very well be the same phenomenon, just viewed from different angles. At this point, physics stops feeling like a set of rules and starts feeling like a shadow. Geometry also begins behaving strangely here. As dimensions increase from 1 to 5, the volume of a unit sphere grows. Space becomes more generous. The sphere reaches its maximum volume in the 5th dimension. And this is the peak, the moment where space is the most efficient at containing things. Then, something breaks. At 6 dimensions, volume starts to shrink. Now, this is counterintuitive in a way that cannot be visualized. You are adding more room, and yet objects occupy less of it. The spheres become smaller relative to the space that they inhabit. Packing becomes inefficient, and distance itself loses meaning. This is the point where string theory String theory is often framed as speculative, but mathematically it's an act of desperation. When physicists try to unify quantum mechanics and gravity, the equations just refuse to behave. probabilities stop adding up to 1 and the math collapses into nonsense. Unless the universe has 6 extra spatial dimensions, and not metaphorically, literally. These dimensions are not extended like ours. They're compact, curled into complex shapes known as Calabi-Yau manifolds. And these shapes aren't decorative. Their topology determines the properties of particles, mass, charge, interaction strength. The laws of physics may not be laws at all, they may be consequences of hidden geometry. So you change the shape, and you could very well change the universe. This introduces a deeply unsettling possibility. What we call the constants of nature may be environmental accidents, features of how space is folded rather than truths about reality itself. By now, intuition is useless. You can't picture 6 dimensions. I can't. Visualization fails because our brains evolved to navigate 3. What remains is just pattern recognition. And the pattern is clear. Higher dimensions do not add complexity evenly. They introduce zones of order and zones of collapse. And this much becomes undeniable in the 8th dimension. Now, dimensions 5 through 7 are mathematically messy. We don't know their exact sphere-packing limits.
Take your time.
The geometry resists optimization. It feels chaotic. Then, suddenly, in 8 dimensions, certainty returns. Mathematicians know exactly how many spheres can touch a central sphere in 8 dimensions. 240, and that's not approximately. That's exactly 240. These spheres arrange themselves into a structure called a lattice, a configuration so perfect it cannot be improved upon. This is not an abstract curiosity. The same structure appears in string theory, group theory, and error-correcting codes. The geometry of 8-dimensional space is so efficient that it helps modern technology recover lost information. Reality, at certain dimensional depths, becomes better at preserving order than we are. This raises an uncomfortable question. Why does structure suddenly decide, on volition, if it has that, to reappear here in the 8th dimension? Why does the universe seem to prefer certain dimensions?
Now let's finish you.
There is no answer yet. Only the implication that dimensionality is not neutral. Some dimensions support coherence, others erode it. Beyond this, containment itself begins to fail. In 9 dimensions, a sphere placed inside a hypercube grows so large relative to the cube's corners that it begins touching edges that should be distant by our logic. By the 10th dimension, the sphere protrudes outside the cube entirely. This is not a mistake. The math is correct. A boundary no longer bounds. And yet, 10 dimensions are required for superstring theory to make sense at all. Without them, reality contradicts itself. At this level, physics does not break binary. It's inside and outside are meaningful categories. And once that protection is gone, nothing we consider solid remains safe. Up to this point, higher dimensions have behaved like unfair advantages. They bypass walls, undo knots, merge forces. Even when geometry becomes strange, it still feels rule-bound, as if reality is playing a more complicated game, but remaining coherent. That illusion does not survive the next threshold. Beyond 10 dimensions, space stops behaving like a place where things can be meaningfully arranged. Optimization fails. Intuition dies completely. What remains is not chaos in a dramatic sense, but something colder. Indifference. One of the first signs of this appears in a phenomenon mathematicians call sausage catastrophe. In lower dimensions, if you try to pack spheres effectively, you cluster them, you stack them,
Nice shot.
lattices. Complexity improves efficiency, and this logic holds all the way up through familiar space, even into moderately high dimensions.
Going silent.
Then, at 42 dimensions. It breaks permanently. From dimension 42 onwards, it is mathematically proven the most efficient way to pack spheres is not to cluster them at all. It's to line them up in a single, endless chain. No matter how many spheres you add, no amount of clever arrangements beats a straight line. All higher dimensional cleverness collapses into monotony. This is not just unintuitive, it's intellectually humiliating. Every instinct about structure fails. Space no longer rewards complexity, it actively punishes it. And this matters because it reveals something unsettling about high-dimensional reality. There are realms where structure is not favored at all. It's suppressed. Before reaching that collapse, there is one last moment of almost supernatural elegance. Dimension 24. Like Dimension 8, 24 is a mathematical a rare island of perfection in an otherwise turbulent dimensional sea. In 24 dimensions, spheres arrange themselves into the Leech lattice. One simple sphere can be touched by 196,260 others without overlap. This number is not approximate, it is exact. Even more unsettling is where this Leech lattice is not just theoretical. It's used in real-world error correction. Information is transmitted through noisy channels, be it space probes, space communication, or digital storage. This four-dimensional cover information survives chaos because of a structure that exists far beyond our reality. And this reframes something. Perhaps higher dimensions are not as it breaks, but there to behave. Perhaps the reason information feels conserved in the universe is not because of a law that we understand, but because deeper geometry refuses to be meaningful resolve. This is the last kindness. Beyond this point, dimensions stop feeling like scaffolding and start feeling like erasure. At sufficiently high dimensions, volume behaves in a way that openly contradicts the universe. A hypersphere placed inside a hypercube grows larger than the cube meant to contain it. The inside object becomes larger than its boundary. Containment fails in principle, not in practice. This is not poetry. It is literal.
Now you see me.
Some estimates place this inversion around hundreds of dimensions. The exact number is debated, but the implication is not. At extreme dimensionality, the very idea of a container collapses. Inside and outside lose their distinction. At this depth, geometry no longer respects borders. How could such dimensions exist without tearing the universe apart? Well, because we're not immersed in them. They're compact, folded, hidden at scales too small to probe directly. Like a garden hose viewed from far away, higher dimensions collapse into invisible linears that conceal resolution. To us, space looks three-dimensional because we cannot see the curvature wrapped inside of it. Invisibility is not irrelevance. If they vibrate, and vibrations carry. In theories that include extra dimensions, these vibrations manifest as heavy, long-lived particles known as moduli. They are not part of accreting matter as we understand it. They are echoes of geometry, fluctuations in how space itself has been folded. For a very brief moment after the Big Bang, these moduli may have dominated the universe. Not matter, not radiation, but geometry. Space was ringing like a struck bell.
What are the odds that elevator's
They
going to be empty
decayed
when it
quickly,
gets here?
but their decay
cover.
may have left behind something quieter and harder to detect. Axions. Ghostly particles that barely interact with matter. A background hum from dimensions we can't enter, but may still be able to hear.
This will bring them down.
The early universe may have been governed by dimensions we no longer
Incoming! Watch out!
may be the cooled, collapsed residue of a higher dimensional phase. Physics, as we know it, may be what survives after geometry settles into a simpler form. Seen this way, our universe is not fundamental. It's stabilized. This reframes the plans for physics to break. It doesn't shatter like glass. It thins. Assumptions lose their grip. Rules fade as soon as the dimensional context
Easy
changes.
enough.
From the perspective of higher space, nothing we experience is violated. It is simply local. And locality is fragile. Every time we climb a dimension, what once felt impossible becomes trivial. Walls become lines, knots become illusions, forces merge, boundaries fail, optimization collapses. At the highest levels, space does not feel hostile, it feels uninterested.
I'll take care of it.
Which leaves one final question. If higher dimensions exist, and if our universe is merely a cross-section of something much larger, then what we call reality may not be a place at all, but a shadow cast by geometry we are not equipped to perceive. And shadows do not control the objects that cast them.
Answer my question.
By this point, dimensions have stripped space of its reliability. Walls no longer confine, shapes no longer contain. Order appears and disappears without warning. But there's one assumption still standing, quietly holding the whole structure together. That assumption is observation. Now, so far, we've treated dimensions as places, spaces where objects exist and geometry behaves badly. But at the highest levels, dimensions stop acting like environments and start acting like conditions under which reality becomes definite at all. This is where physics stops being just unsettling and starts becoming existential. In classical reality, observation is passive.
reports of him on multiple levels. We think he's traveling through the ducts.
I'm not paying you to think. Just find him now.
I got it! One last! Gift for you! Good shot! Sweet! Weakening their integrity!
Are you guys all right in here?
Get back! Get back! I'll shoot!
That's really not a good idea.
I don't want to hurt you, but I will.
Hurt me? I hardly felt a thing.
Talon!
Slow and easy.
He's my brother. I just want to see if he's all right. Are you the ones who shot the merc?
I've shot a lot of mercs today, but I can't take credit for him.
Then who did?
You tell me. What happened?
The merc found us and shouted at. I thought he was going to kill us. Then Talon picked up the merc.
That's very precise shooting.
I'm looking for someone.
Talon thought he saw someone following. I haven't seen anyone but the mercs. No need to convince me. Talon, come on.
Let me go home now.
Yeah, thank you.
This is valuable.
We're compromised.
I don't care what you do. No one gets across that bridge.
Got it. You got it. Going to cover.
Now you see me.
I'll tear you apart. You got it.
You got it.
What the hell are you waiting for? Just kill them.
Fall and die. Heading to cover.
Taking cover.
Trouble ahead.
Down you go.
What the hell am I paying you for? I'm sending in reinforcements.
I'll tear you apart. Get your ass covered.
Eclipse never fails. Get your ass to cover.
Damn it! Finish it off!
Nobody runs.
This'll bring them down.
Wait. Before you kill me, just tell me who hired you.
Who do you think it was?
Screw you.
Charming.
Kill me then. I'm not playing your stupid games. Well, you made it this far. Now what?
You really think I'm here to kill you?
Do you have another reason for destroying my tower? Decimating my security?
I'm just looking for someone.
You expect me to believe that? Is it credits? Is that what you want? Just tell me a price, we can make this problem go away.
All the credits in the world won't make this problem go away, Nasana.
Who the hell gave you the right to play God? I may not be perfect, but look at you. We both kill people for money. What's the difference?
You kill people because you think they're beneath you. They're in your way. I kill people when they leave me no choice.
You've got a choice. You don't have to do this. I can tell you. What?
I heard something.
Damn it. Check the other entrances. You stay put. When I'm finished dealing with this nuisance, you and I are going to...
Not bad.
I came a long way to talk to you.
One moment. Prayers for the wicked must not be forsaken.
She certainly was wicked.
Not for her. For me. The measure of an individual can be difficult to discern by actions alone. Take you, for instance. All this destruction, chaos. I was curious to see how far you'd go to find me. Well, here I am.
I do want to talk to you, but how did you know I was here?
Gunfire and explosions. I prefer to work quietly. If I have to fight through guards, I've made a mistake. I rarely make mistakes. You disrupted my plan, but your distraction eventually proved valuable.
Let's cut to the chase. I need you for a mission.
Indeed.
You're familiar with the Collectors?
By reputation.
They're abducting entire human colonies. Freedom's Progress was their handiwork.
I see.
We're going after them.
Attacking the Collectors would require passing through the Omega-4 relay. No ship has ever returned from doing so.
My ship will be the first.
You'd like me to protect humans I've never met, from aliens no one knows anything about, by going to a place no one's ever returned from?
That's the gist of it.
This was to be my last job. I'm dying. Low survival odds don't concern me. The abduction of your colonists does.
You're dying. Are you contagious? How long do you have?
If you're interested, we can discuss it on your ship. The problem isn't contagious, and it won't affect my work.
Not to look a gift assassin in the mouth, but why are human colonists a concern to you?
They're innocent, yes? Like all victims of the Collectors. The universe is a dark place. I'm trying to make it brighter before I die. Many innocents died today. I wasn't fast enough and they suffered. I must atone for that. I will work for you, Shepard. No charge.
I've heard impressive stories, Krios. Sounds like you'll be an asset to the team. That is, if you're comfortable having an assassin watch your back.
I've accepted a contract. My arm is Shepard's.
Uh-huh. Don't know about you, but I'm loyal to more than my next paycheck.
Keep it civil, people. We've all got the same goal. Maintain the objective.
Aye, aye, sir.
Where shall I put my things? I'd prefer someplace dry if anything is available.
The area near the life support plant on the crew deck tends to be slightly more arid than the rest of the ship.
Ah, an AI. My thanks.
He seems quite civil.
We need all the help we can get. He's not what I expected in an assassin. He may surprise you.
Yeah, and he may not.
July 16th, 1945, the New Mexico desert. The first nuclear bomb detonates. The sky turns white. The sand melts into glass. Robert Oppenheimer, the man who built it, stands in silence. Later, he will say what came to his mind in that moment. A line from a 4,000-year-old
Commander, you've
text.
received a new message at your
Now
private terminal.
I am. Become death, the destroyer of worlds. Bhagavad Gita, chapter 11, verse 32. Oppenheimer didn't choose that quote randomly. He had studied Sanskrit at Berkeley. He had read the Mahabharata, one of the oldest texts in human history, and what he found in it disturbed him. The Sauptika Parva, Book 10 of the Mahabharata, describes a weapon called the Brahmastra. The text says it shot upward with a deafening roar. It blazed with terrible flames. It caused all the points of the universe to blaze with light, and all living things to feel a scorching heat. But the aftermath is what stops you cold. Crops withered. Water became unfit to drink. Women bore stillborn children. The earth became barren.
People are talking out there, and I hear it all. What's wrong?
They lost contact with New Canton. Might be the collectors.
Did your family get out of there?
I don't know. No communications yet.
I'm sure they're safe.
Rupert, there's something different with tonight's meal. Seems like you put in more food and less ass.
Yeah, keep talking.
Something.
Have a few minutes to talk?
Certainly. We haven't had a chance since I joined.
When we met you, you said you were dying.
Yes. I thought you'd want to know more. You don't have to worry about the rest of the crew. My illness is not communicable, even to other Drell. It's called Keprel syndrome.
What exactly is the problem?
My people are native to an arid world. Most of us now live on Kaje, the Hanar homeworld. It's very humid and rains every day. Our lungs can't deal with the moisture. Over time, the tissue loses its ability to absorb oxygen. It becomes harder to breathe. Eventually, we suffocate.
Is there anything we can do here? Normandy has a state-of-the-art medical bay.
No, thank you. It's being attended to. If the finest medical minds in the Hanar illuminated primacy can't solve the problem, I doubt your ship's medic could. Thank you for your concern. Trust me, this won't affect my performance.